Hello, everyone. Welcome into another episode of Ben on Sports, where today we have the NFL Week 2 preview. This is going along with the Week 1 preview. We have 18 weeks, so we got 16 more weeks after this week to go. If you all liked Week 1, I hope you liked, comment, and subscribe. We're going to keep it rolling here. Hopefully, everybody keeps coming back week after week. In this video, we're going to recap Week 1 a little bit, get into Week 2, give you my predictions, maybe a couple extra fun surprises. Who knows what we might get on the topic of. So without further ado, here we go. Let's recap week number 1. Obviously, big game of the week, defending Super Bowl champions Chiefs going against the Baltimore Ravens. I think everybody saw this game, national television. Everybody was excited, and I think this is two of the three best teams of the league. I know there was a lot of controversy around officiating, and it may have a point. At the end of the day, that's not the reason why the Ravens lost the game. I think they were just missing some crispness out of their offense. And I think the Chiefs were just at home. They were a little bit more ready to go, it seemed to me. Likely being out by an inch didn't help. Lamar and Flowers being not on the same page at the play before didn't help. The Ravens had their opportunities. I'll tell you what, if I'm the Chiefs and I see the Ravens again in the playoffs, I'm going to be really scared because when this offense gets going, it's going to be very tough to stop it. And I think that defense is going to get better every game. Now, the most important question, was I right about this game? I was not. I picked the Ravens to go in there and do what the Lions did last year. That's okay. It's a 50-50, hard game to pick. I do think if they play each other again, I think the Ravens might get the Chiefs. I think they're the team that's best equipped to do it in the AFC. Anyway, we're going to move on. Game number 2, Eagles-Packers in Brazil. And boy, did the people of Brazil ever get a great football game. This one was close the whole way. It had a lot of star power. Came right down to the last play. And unfortunately for the Packers, they lost Jordan Love at the very end of the game. It doesn't seem like it's going to be that long, but if you're the Packers, you don't want to lose Jordan Love for any period of time. The Eagles, Saquon certainly looked good in his first game with the Eagles coming over from the division rival Giants. Both of these teams could be really good. Both of these teams could be division winners. I think they're both going to end up in the playoffs as long as Jordan Love's injury isn't too bad and isn't too long. But what a phenomenal game. Did I get this one right? I did. I picked the Eagles. Somehow I was on the Packers all offseason, and I talked myself into the Eagles during the last podcast. So I got the Eagles right. We're to 1-1 on the week. Steelers Falcons. Now, I thought this might be a little bit of a defensive game, but I think I trusted the Falcons defense a little bit more. Or at least I trusted their offense. Steelers quarterback situation I wasn't sure about. Steelers defense reminded everybody TJ Watt's healthy. They reminded everybody that they're here. They reminded everybody how good they are. I think Kirk Cousins still has a lot of rust to shake off. It's never easy coming back from an Achilles, and there's a lot of players around the league coming back from Achilles tears this week, and definitely had some mixed results. But if Kirk Cousins wants to keep his job, I know they're paying him a lot of money, but if he keeps on underperforming, they will put Penix in, and I think he knows that. So I do think the Falcons are going to continue to get better, but what a win by the Steelers. First place in the division without scoring a touchdown. The only team in the division that does not have a touchdown in the AFC North is the Steelers, and they're still on top. You can win games kicking 6 field goals when you have a defense as good as the Steelers do. What I do think, despite this performance, the Falcons have a more clear path to the playoffs than the Steelers. Only time will tell. I obviously got this one wrong. I was picking the Falcons. I was big on them. Maybe I bought into the hype a little bit too much. I rarely do that, but that's a very real possibility. As long as they stay off of prime time and avoid Kirk Cousins on prime time, I think they're going to win some games. I don't think their division is going to be too difficult. I think their schedule's easy. I do think the Falcons will land there. But again, the Steelers surprised everybody. Justin Fields didn't look bad. But the story of the day is the Steelers defense, and they deserve all the compliments they're getting, and certainly no team wants to see the Steelers defense. Bills and Cardinals, this was a game that ended up being a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. The Cardinals honestly impressed me. I didn't think they were going to be able to perform as well as they did in hostile environment, but they did. The Bills, super slow start. They did end up kind of dominating the second half. They reminded everybody who they were. Josh Allen, not afraid to tuck the ball and run. What's new? If you're the Cardinals, you're hoping the offense keeps coalescing. Trey McBride obviously was doing his thing. You hope Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. get some type of chemistry. Or maybe it was the game plan this week not to look at him. I don't know. But we'll see. I think this game, much like the first other two games, or less than the first three games we talked about. I apologize. I think the first three games were a battle between three or two playoff contenders. I don't think this one is a battle between two playoff contenders. I think the Cardinals still have one more year, but they played pretty well. Again, I picked the Bills here, as you can tell by me being surprised at the Cardinals. Got that one right. We keep it at 500 at 2-2. Bears and Titans. This was a really interesting game, and this actually starts a trend that I think happened in quite a few games about rookie quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, first and second year quarterbacks, not having great showings as a whole. The Bears did manage to win this game somehow with great defense and special teams. You saw Caleb Williams make a big play at the end with his legs. You didn't see a whole lot out of his arm, which I don't know if that's too concerning. It's week one, his first NFL start, and really ultimately he did the most important thing, which was get a win. The Titans offense didn't look great. Will Levis, I think, has the most memed moment of the weekend so far with that hands on the head, sitting at his knees, watching the pick six get ran back. But if you're the Bears, you got to feel confident winning a game where you scored no offensive touchdowns with your rookie quarterback. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the Bears as they move forward. Obviously, you can't make any judgments about any quarterback after one start. Again, both of these young quarterbacks didn't look great, and that's, I think, a trend that continued throughout most of week one. But credit to the Bears beating the Titans. Who did I pick in this game? I picked the Bears, and a game that I viewed as a 50-50 toss-up. Thankfully, I picked the Bears. My record's over 100 or over 500 on the week. I'm at 3-2. And what was probably the biggest surprise game, I don't really have a lot to say about it. I was very impressed with the Patriots. They shocked, I think, everybody except Patriots fans, and I think even some Patriots fans were shocked. I think they did a phenomenal job controlling the ground game. They had a massive, massive time of possession, and it allowed their defense, which not enough people were talking about. Christian Gonzalez might be a top 5 corner in the league already. And the Patriots just dominated on defense. It was old school. We're going to run the ball, keep it on the ground, and play really good defense. And that's exactly what they did. And if you're the Bengals, I don't know if you want to worry week one, but their schedule doesn't get any easier. They're going to face the Chiefs next week. They were at home against a team that everybody thought might be the worst team in the NFL, and they just struggled offensively. Burrow didn't look himself. Chase had a hard time getting going. And if you're a Bengals fan, you can't fall, or not even a Bengals fan, if you're just a Bengals player, you can't get too far under 500. You can't get too many games back because of how difficult your schedule is. You really needed a win here, and it's very unfortunate for the Bengals. I don't want to hit the panic button. I'm not going to hit the alarm button. I don't want to overreact to week one. I think way too many people do. But if you're a Bengals fan, you got to be starting to get worried, at least a little bit, because that was not a good look from your offense. Obviously, much like most of the world, I picked the Bengals to win this game. I was wrong. That puts me to 3-3, and through the first 6 games, I don't have a great record. Moving on to the Texans and the Colts. This game was pretty close. It was pretty interesting. I think in a battle of young quarterbacks, I think these were probably the 2 best performances from a young quarterback we had on the week, in C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson. Richardson made some plays that I think made everybody's jaw drop to the floor. Obviously, the Texans still won. I think the Texans are the better team. I think it's going to be between them and the Jaguars for the division, but there's a lot to be happy about if you're the Colts. You have some good young skill position players. You have a young quarterback that, if he stays healthy, looks like he could be a rare breed of athleticism and pocket prowess. And I mean, what superlatives are not to say about C.J. Stroud? I think DeMeco Ryans really has the team playing well. Again, 2 best young performances from young quarterbacks on the week in Texas and Colts. Who do I pick? Who did I pick? I picked the Texans there. We're back over 500 at 4-3. Hopefully I start to run off some more wins here, or my ego is going to be hurting a little bit. Dolphins and Jaguars did not look good the first half for the Dolphins. at all. Jaguars came out, were running it well, had some great play action. Trevor Lawrence had the passing game working early, and the Jaguars defense, I think some of it was miscues from the Dolphins. They were heavily penalized in the first half, and some of it was just great Jaguars defense. That front four is incredible. They held the Miami Dolphins run game down essentially the whole game. And then the Miami passing offense woke up in the second game, and you just saw Tua getting it to Tyreek, getting it to Jalen Waddle, and the Dolphins defense woke up, held Jacksonville scoreless. Miami's offense got going, and Miami won the game at the buzzer. I think there's a lot of positives for both teams. Neither team played a perfect game, but I do think there's a lot to build off of for both of these teams going into the next week. And if you're Jacksonville, I think you need to mirror what you did the first half, not so much the second half. Again, I think that fumble that Javon Holland calls changed the entire game, and you can see it really gave Miami momentum. But if you're Miami, you really don't want to have to need a miracle early in the fourth quarter to win a football game. I think Miami gets sharper as the year goes on. They are a little bit banged up, but we'll see what happens. Again, I think this is two teams that are really good and could both find themselves in the playoffs. I picked the Dolphins in this game, so we're at 5-3 now. We're moving a little bit over 500. I was very scared about that pick most of the game. Now we move on to the ugliest game of the week. Not a whole lot to say. It was another young quarterback having a poor performance in Bryce Young, and it got ugly, and it got ugly early. The Saints came to play. Were forcing turnovers, scoring touchdowns. Ugly game. If you're a Panthers fan, I don't know what to tell you. I feel bad for you. The Panthers might be the worst franchise in the NFL. They might have finally usurped the Browns for that honor, although it's very close. The Saints look really, really good. I think for the Saints, it's going to come down to their offense. I think their defense is going to be able to get enough stops. It's going to come down to kind of Derek-led, Carr-led offense. Be consistently good enough to win games. And if the answer is yes, the Saints could be very scary because there's a plethora of skill position players there. Now, who did I pick to win this game? I did pick the Saints. We're to 6-3. We're getting on a little hot streak now. Vikings and Giants. I don't think either of these teams are good. Daniel Jones is really, really not good. I feel bad for Giants fans. They thought they had the guy in Daniel Jones, and they didn't. At least it doesn't appear to be so. Giants offense looked horrific. Giants defense didn't look too much better. They only gave up 21 points to the Vikings offense, but they made Sam Darnold look good, which to this point in Sam Darnold's career has been almost impossible. That might have been the best performance of his career. He started off, I think, 11 for 11, was moving the ball around, and I don't think the Vikings are going to play that well offensively the rest of the year, but it was a good week one performance from him. I don't think I expect too much more out of them this year, but that was a great week one performance for them. Again, Giants, they looked awful. Vikings look better than expected, but I don't think they're going to be able to play that well against better teams. Who did I pick? I did pick the Giants. I thought because they were at home, they were going to be able to put it together. And I was wrong. The Giants were much worse than I thought they were going to be. Moving on to the next game, the Chargers and the Raiders. This was a close game. It got really chippy at the end. A couple of ejections. I was very, very interested in this game because you have John Harbaugh making his return to the NFL. You have the Raiders who were trying to compete with Antonio Pierce. I got it right this time. I didn't have to make a correction like I did last week in terms of pronouncing his name correctly. And the Chargers, I wasn't impressed either way. I do think the Raiders defense is really good, especially the front seven. Maybe not really good as a whole, but the front seven is. And I think maybe that's why the Chargers didn't score a lot. But I do think the Chargers have some improvements to make. I think the Chargers were the better team, but I think the Raiders and Chargers, neither one of them I think are going to make the playoffs, but they both have a chance to upset some teams and ruin other teams' hopes. I think Harbaugh has something building. I think Pierce has something building. We'll see. Who did I pick? I picked the Chargers, thankfully. Another one in the bag. Next game, Seahawks and Broncos. This was One of the strangest starts to a game I've ever seen. The Seahawks gave up 2 safeties in the first quarter. You rarely see 1 safety in a game, much less 2 safeties in 1 quarter. That was ridiculous. It was a rough start for the Seahawks. Maybe not rough, slow might be a better word. Sean Payton, I do still believe is a good head coach. I don't know if this team is a team he's going to do much with. Bo Nix, another young quarterback, didn't look great. Um, Again, but we all know Seattle's new head coach was phenomenal in Baltimore last year as a defensive coordinator. Maybe he's bringing some magic with him to Seattle. Eventually, Seattle's offense figured it out, and the game was really not that close once Seattle's offense figured it out. And Seattle in the second half really ran away with it at home. Again, hopefully Bo Nix gets better for the Broncos. Hopefully Sean Payton is able to coach him. And hopefully the Broncos, I guess if you're a Broncos fan, get better throughout the year. We'll see. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. The Seahawks probably will. Although their division looks like it might be one of the best, if not the best division in the NFL after 1 week. Doesn't mean much after 1 week, but we'll see. Who did I pick? I picked the Seahawks. Thankfully, we were right about that. Moving on to the next game, the Buccaneers and the Commanders. I don't think too many people thought the Commanders were going to win this. It was kind of close in the first half, and then the Buccaneers ran away and poured it on in the second half. I don't think the Commanders are going to be very good this year. I don't think their defense is that good. I think they're missing some pieces offensively. The only thing that matters this year for the Commanders is keeping Jaden Daniels healthy and make sure he's learning. And he had an okay game. I don't think he was great. Another, second round pick, another young quarterback. Did a lot with his legs. I think as the season goes on, teams are going to figure out how to take it away as much as they can, but I think you can only take away somebody like Daniel's legs so much. Not a whole lot in the passing game. I think he threw for less than 100 yards, maybe a little bit more. Not a whole lot out of Daniels that was impressing. Like I said, outside of his rushing game, but the Buccaneers certainly looked really, really good. Baker Mayfield looked really, really good in the passing game. That whole offense looked great. I think the Buccaneers, I think they float around 500, stay in the playoff hunt for a while, but they were certainly impressive this week. The question for them moving forward is, can they continue to do it against good teams? Who did I pick? I picked the Buccaneers, I think like mostly everybody else did. Moving on to the next game, Cowboys and Browns. I don't want to take too many victory laps, and I don't think I have, but I will take a victory lap here. I have no idea why Cleveland was favored at home. Their defense, a little bit overrated, still good, but their offense hasn't shown any capability the last 2 years under Deshaun Watson, and the Cowboys' defense is great. You knew that it was going to be really difficult even for a good offense to move it against the Cowboys. Plus, the Cowboys have a much better proven offense. No idea why anybody thought this game was going to be close. I know that I didn't. If you're the Browns, the defense is mostly there. You have good skill position players in Judy and Cooper and Njoku. You have Chubb coming back soon. But Deshaun Watson might be cooked. He might be finished. And you know what? Maybe it's the karma bug that came around and got Deshaun Watson. Who knows? But Deshaun Watson is quickly running out of time to prove that he can still be a good starting quarterback. And the Cowboys did exactly what they should have done in this scenario and made a point on the road to start the year that they are still here. They are the Cowboys. I don't know if it's they're here like they always say it is, but definitely a playoff team. Looked really good. And I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for picking the Cowboys to win big, as we see here. Next game, Lions-Rams. Another game I believe I said was really close. It was going to be a toss-up. And sure enough, it was. It went into overtime. A little bit worried about the Rams' run game. Matthew Stafford's always able to throw the ball, and they got a lot of weapons. Sorry, Puka Nacua. I think he'll definitely be back before the end of the year. And then the Lions, I mean, they made the NFC Championship game last year. They're thinking Super Bowl this year. Dan Quinn, great head coach, great motivator. Jared Goff and the offense look good. And that overtime performance of just running it right down the Rams' throat and say, you can't stop us because we're bigger and stronger, was incredibly impressive. And I think both of these teams find a way to make the playoffs. I think they're both good teams. Lions were a little bit better. And as I said, Lions were going to win, and they did. But again, I think that's a battle between two teams that can definitely make the playoffs. Last game of the week, 49ers Jets. This is going to be my last victory lap of the week. I mean, it has to be. It is the last game. But I remember sitting here a week ago and saying there's no way the Jets keep this game close. I wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers win by multiple possessions, at least 2 touchdowns. The Jets are the Jets. I don't know why everybody loves them. They love that defense, and the defense is good, not great. Good, not great. I think they have some really good pieces. I think they have some overrated pieces, but the offense has been proven to be up and down, no matter who the quarterback is. And it is Aaron Rodgers, who's almost 40, one of the greatest quarterbacks of his generation. It's hard to come back from an Achilles tear, no matter who you are. Coming back from an Achilles tear, hasn't played really a whole game of football in 2 years. It's going to take time to get back. And against the 49ers, a team who might be the best all-around team in the league, were you really ever going to win a primetime game in San Francisco? You're not the Baltimore Ravens from last year. I just don't understand where people were drawing on hype for the Jets. I don't think their season is over. I do think they can find a way to make the playoffs. I don't think that's a stretch, but putting them in this upper echelon, assuming their offense was going to be great, assuming that they were going to be able to keep it close with the 49ers, I don't think was ever realistic. That's why I picked the 49ers, and the 49ers won. So that's kind of our week 1 preview. And here we're going to get into week 2. All right, so here we go. Before we go through week 2, I want to give you a couple of symbols to look out for. As you can see on the screen here, the star is going to be a game that I peg as a top 5 game. I might not have 5 games every week, but I think there's 5 standout games between really good teams that everybody should want to watch this week. This little arrow here is teams looking to rebound, teams that lost last week, teams that need a win, teams that are trying to rebound or find something with their team. This little poop emoji, everybody's favorite emoji, is going to be what I call the toilet bowl game of the week, which is the game that I think is going to be the absolute worst between 2 bad teams. It's just going to be ugly. Nobody's going to want to watch it. It's going to look like an Iowa college game out there because it's just going to be ugly and not fun to watch. And then the last category here, we have game of the week, which I'm not going to tell you what it is up front. We're going to have maybe we'll have a surprise in there. But game of the week is going to be what I think is the best game between the 2 best teams, or the game that has the most potential to be really exciting to watch. So keep these logos, keep these images in mind when we're going through here, because you're going to see them in the corners of the screen as we're clicking through. Week 1, Thursday Night Football. Yes, you see right off the bat, we're starting this week with a top 5 game, in my opinion. Absolute banger of a game. 2 divisional rivals, the Dolphins and the Bills. It's going to be in Miami, national television. And this game I think is going to be really close. I think Miami is the better all-around team. I think they have more weapons on offense. I think their defense has star players at more positions. I think the Dolphins are a slightly better team. But the Bills have more experience. The Bills have done this. Not to mention, fun fact of the day, the Bills have won 11 of the last 12 games against Miami. That's a butt whooping if I've ever heard of one. I mean, if you're the Dolphins, you've made the playoffs the last few years. You've had a winning record the last 4 or 5 years, and you're won 11 out of 12. Josh Allen and the Bills have owned the Dolphins recently. And despite the Dolphins probably having more talent and being the better team, I think the Bills probably find a way to get it done. Josh Allen always seems to play well against the Dolphins. The Dolphins are going to have to hope to force him into turnovers, which can be a problem for him at times. I don't think the Bills have quite a good front as the Jaguars did, so maybe the Dolphins find some running lanes, but Achane, Mostert are both hurt. Mostert's definitely out. Achane might not play. I just find a hard time seeing where the Dolphins overcome what they've been lacking the last 11 out of the last 12 times they played the Bills, and Josh Allen just seems to always go off against the Dolphins. I think that I'm not going to say the Dolphins have no chance because, like I said, I think they're more talented. Maybe the Dolphins find a way. Either way, I think this game is going to be really entertaining between 2 division rivals that, as both sides have admitted, they just don't like each other. So I highly recommend, if you have Amazon, tune into the game at home. If not, you should find your way to your local sports watching place. I think this game is going to be really good, and I think the Bills are still going to win. And as you can see here, I feel so strongly that this is going to be a good game. I think it's this week's game of the week. I think this is going to be the best game. It's going to be a close game between two teams that are thinking playoffs, maybe even Super Bowl. I think at this point, the Bills every season are Super Bowl at bust. Miami, definitely playoffs or bust, trying to win a game. But game of the week, I highly recommend everybody tune in here. Game number 2, you can see here I have our rebound logo, Ravens and Raiders. I don't think the Raiders are necessarily trying to rebound. I think the Raiders are just trying to get better week by week as a unit. I think they know that they're in for a long season, but the Ravens, they didn't look bad against the Chiefs, but I think there's some things on offense and defense they want to iron out. This is their home opener. They want to rebound, get in the win column, get to 500, keep pace in the division, which I do think they will eventually end up winning. But I think the Ravens also win this game. I think they do rebound. I think that offense might put up a lot of points against the Raiders to prove a point, to remind everybody who they are, but not a whole lot to say about the Raiders. I just think we know it's going to be a long season. I think it's going to be interesting watching the development of their young players. I think Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby alone make that front elite, but I don't think they're any match for the Ravens this week. I think the Ravens probably win this handedly and successfully rebound. We have our second rebound game of the week here, the Jaguars and the Browns, two teams that think they are good enough to make the playoffs. And both of them need a rebound. Jacksonville is at home. I don't know if you've noticed, but all the home teams have been on the left so far. So when you're looking through this, keep that in mind. I think the Jaguars figure this out and win this game. It's so hard for me to trust Deshaun Watson running that Browns offense. That Jaguars defense doesn't look like it's too bad. They did give up a lot of yardage to Miami, but they only gave up 20 points, which for Miami is an off day. I think the Browns defense might be able to do some good against Jacksonville, but I think for Jacksonville, every week that offense is going to get better and continue to coalesce. I think Josh Allen might be able to wreak havoc in the backfield. And I think the Jaguars win this game at home. And I think the Jaguars are better this year than they were last year or even 2 years ago when they made the playoffs. I think they could surprise some people. Another rebound. We have 3 in a row. Titans, Jets. I don't think the Titans are looking to rebound. Like I said, I think they know it's going to be a long season. I do think they want to see Levis play a little bit better, so maybe a rebound in that sense. But I think this is a game where the Jets want to rebound. They have an opportunity to do it. They're on the road. I don't think that matters too much to them. They are a better team. They're talented more talented at almost every single position than the Titans. This is a game where the Jets are going to want to make a statement and prove that they are in the upper echelon, that they are a playoff team. And I think they definitely win it. I don't know by how much. The Titans are a tough team. They have been the last couple of years. But I do think the Jets win this one, and I think we see Rodgers continue to return to whatever his form is going to be. I think he's going to be better than he was against the 49ers, and I think we see a better Jets offense, and I think they win. As you can see, there's no real designation here. Both of these teams won. I don't think this is going to be a great matchup. Vikings and 49ers in Minnesota. It is a 1 o'clock game for a West Coast team. Sometimes those can be tricky, but I think San Francisco wins in a similar manner they did against the Jets. I don't think this game is close. I think Sam Darnold faces a good defense and remembers how much that sucks. we remember the primetime game against the Patriots a couple years ago where it seemed like to me he was talking about seeing ghosts. I think he sees ghosts again. I think the 49ers force a couple turnovers. Even without Christian McCaffrey, I think their offense moves the ball somewhat easily. And unlike against the Jets, I think they score touchdowns instead of field goals. I think 49ers win this one in a blowout. Panthers, Chargers, two teams that probably finish with losing records. The Panthers, I think they're just trying to not get blown out. I think this is their home opener, but it doesn't look like anybody's going to be there. This is the cheapest NFL ticket anywhere right now is to a Carolina Panthers game. Not trying to be mean. It's just the state of the franchise. They're not a good team. They're not getting people to come out to the games. Bryce Young is not looking like the guy they thought he was. Granted, they haven't put him in a great scenario. Sometimes scenarios mean more than talent when evaluating on quarterbacks. The Chargers, I think they're going to be able to run the ball pretty well. They have a great offensive line. They have a good running attack. Jim Harbaugh knows what he's doing. I think the Chargers are going to win this one. I don't think either team is great. I think the Chargers are better than the Panthers, but I don't think either one is great. I don't think either one makes the playoffs. But I think the Chargers get to 2-0, which is usually a good start if you want to make the playoffs. But with a 2-0 against two teams that maybe aren't going to be the best. Patriots and Seahawks in New England. Patriots home opener coming off of a massive win. And I'm very scared because I picked against the Patriots last week and they proved me and everybody else wrong. But boy, oh boy, the Seahawks offense looks like they had it going a little bit better than the Bengals did. And I don't want to overreact. I still don't think the Patriots are great. I think maybe they caught the Bengals by surprise. They do look like they're a really tough football team. But I do think the Seahawks have enough to win this game. Mike Macdonald, the Seahawks head coach, comes from Baltimore. He was the defensive coordinator at Baltimore last year, and Baltimore is always a tough team. He has that in his system. I don't think the Patriots catch the Seahawks napping. And I do think this could be closer than some people think. I think the Patriots are going to try and dominate time of possession and run the ball again. But I think the Seahawks are moving a little bit better on offense right now. I think this is a close game. If the Patriots win, we might have a problem on our hands as a league. But I think Seattle wins this game. Close one. They're traveling from west to east, which is never easy. But I think Seattle wins this game somewhat handedly. Next game, Cowboys and Saints. Here you go. The first star we've had in a while. I think this is a top 5 game of the week. Dallas, really good team. We all knew that they would be. They're starting to lock their guys up. Saints, I'm not 100% trusting them yet. They certainly looked like a great team last week, but they were at home against what might be the worst team in the NFL, definitely a bottom 5 team. That definitely helps when you're trying to look good. This could be a close game. It wouldn't surprise me if the Saints are the real deal, but I'm still not 100% bought in on them. I think the Cowboys win this game. It is at AT&T Stadium, so the Cowboys are the home team. And I could see this end up being a Cowboys blowout. I think the Saints do manage to keep it close, but I think Derek Carr is going to have a little bit more trouble moving the ball against the Cowboys defense, and I think that ultimately is what's going to win Dallas the game. Here we go. Two teams that do not look very good. The two teams that are going to give the Cowboys and the Eagles 4 free wins in their divisional contest this year, the Commanders and the Giants. This is just going to be hoping to see improving quarterback play from two teams that might end up with top 5 picks together this year. The NFC this year to me seems like it's a lot of really good upper tier teams and a lot of really bad bottom tier teams. We could see some crazy records both directions coming out of this conference. If you're the Giants, you want to see Daniel Jones do something. Historically, Daniel Jones has dominated the Commanders of all teams. Daniel Jones hasn't done much dominating against literally anybody else, but he's dominated the Commanders. I still do not believe he's ever lost a game against them in his career, which makes it really hard to pick the Commanders, but I think that I am. I think Jaden Daniels finds a way between his leg and his arm. I think he continues to progress as a pocket passer. I am worried about the Commanders defense making Daniel Jones look good because the Commanders defense is really bad. But I think the Commanders home opener, there's a little bit of excitement in the franchise. Still at that awful stadium, but they have new ownership. They have a new quarterback. You can start to see maybe some plans for the future coming together. And I think in a battle of bad teams, I think the Commanders get it done in an ugly one. And I think this game is going to be so ugly. It is, in fact, our toilet bowl game of the week. What better way to explain that than with a poop emoji? I think I would, well, maybe I won't get that mean, but I think this game is going to be the NFL equivalent of taking a crap. So quite fitting emoji. I think if you needed to miss any of these games this week on the slate, I think this is the one you can circle and skip out on. Next game, we have another top 5 matchup here between two teams that are fighting to make the playoffs. One team I think is definitely going to make the playoffs if they stay healthy. You have Detroit and Tampa, the Lions and Buccaneers in Detroit. And I think Detroit probably still wins this game. I don't think the Buccaneers are going to be able to move the ball as easily against the Lions as they did the Commanders. And I think the Lions will find a way to move the ball. I think the Buccaneers have an average defense. I think the Lions move the ball pretty easily. I think the Lions win this game. And I think that the most important thing to watch in this game is to see how the Buccaneers play against a team that made the NFC Championship last year and presumably got better. If the Bucs are the real deal, if the Bucs are going to win the division, which is a real possibility, if they are going to compete in the playoffs, I think this is their first test to show everybody else what they're capable of. I do think the Lions win this game at home, though, and they start 2-0. Next game here, we have the Packers and the Colts, two teams that are trying to rebound. The Colts almost made the playoffs last year. They were very, very close to beating the Texans in that last game, and I think they still have a chance to get there, and maybe they do with Richardson and some of the other pieces they have. I'm still a little bit worried about that defense from time to time, but the defense does enough. And the Packers are looking to rebound after a very close loss to the Eagles. Obviously, the Packers have large aspirations. I think that they can even win the division over the Lions this year, but all of their hopes definitely took a hit with that Jordan Love injury. If Jordan Love is healthy, I think the Packers win this game. It is in Green Bay. If Jordan Love is out, I have no faith in Malik Willis, and I think that could give the Colts what they need to win. There's still a lot of talent over there on that Green Bay side, especially on offense. But I think Anthony Richardson could make more plays than Malik Willis to win that game. I think the Packers, when Love is healthy, are absolutely the better team. I think the Packers might be a top 4 team in the NFC when Jordan Love is healthy. But Jordan Love is not healthy. I think that's honestly the biggest hurt. I think losing Jordan Love hurts more than losing the game in Brazil to the Eagles. If Jordan Love plays, I think he leads the Packers to a win. If Jordan Love doesn't play, the Colts win, and that's my official prediction. Not trying to put an asterisk out there. Apparently, there's still a possibility Love plays. I don't really see it if the injury is as serious as people say it is, so I guess I'll pick the Colts, but I reserve the right to say if Jordan Love plays, I think the Packers win. Another rebounding game for the Rams and the Cardinals. It's in Arizona. The Cardinals impressed me. They played a lot better than I thought they would. I don't know if that's truly who the team is. Maybe it is. Maybe they found some mojo already early in the season and coming out of the offseason and the preseason. I think the Rams are really good. They are in a tough division, both of these teams, and I don't think either one of them are going to be able to be consistently good enough to beat the 49ers out in the division. Same thing with the Seahawks. But if the Cardinals continue to play the way they did against the Bills, I think both of these teams have a shot at the playoffs. Obviously, there's not enough room for everybody, so I think the Cardinals probably fall out of this race as the season goes on. But both of these teams definitely want to rebound. Neither one of them played bad. They were just both playing really good teams. We'll see who rebounds and gets the win. I'm leaning towards the Rams. I think the Rams are still better than the Cardinals, but the Cardinals have a shot here. Next game, not a whole lot to say. I mean, Broncos Steelers. I think the Steelers win this and get the 2-0. I think this game could be an ugly rock fight. I still don't see the Steelers offense coming out and scoring a whole bunch. But I feel really, really bad for Bo Nix having to face a really, really good defense and a really, really good head coach the second week of his career. I think the Steelers make Bo Nix look not great. I think the Steelers win this game with their defense again. And I think this game is probably pretty ugly too. And I think Steelers move to 2-0 and the Broncos move to 0-2. There's not a whole lot else I really have to say. Another top 5 game here. I'm really excited to see this game. Historically, Joe Burrow has played pretty well against the Chiefs. Didn't look good last week, though. We talked about that a little bit earlier on in this video. The Chiefs looked pretty good and ready to go. I still think they're a little bit, much like most teams, they're not quite as sharp, but I think they're sharper than a lot of teams are. Maybe that's because Andy Reid still plays his guys in the preseason. Who knows? Nothing can be proved. I do think the Chiefs win this game, but really what I'm looking for here, I think the Bengals are embarrassed. I think Higgins and Chase both play. I think the Bengals are embarrassed about what happened, and they get their offense going a little bit, and I think they'll be able to score a little bit. But the Chiefs still have a good defense. Part of me wants to say this is going to be a shootout, but I don't think the Bengals go from the performance last week to being able to score a whole bunch against the Chiefs defense in 1 week. I think maybe they get there by the end of the season, though. I think the Chiefs win this one, but I think this is a game to watch. I think it could be really interesting. But if the Bengals lose this, they are in the danger zone. They're starting off 0-2. And I think everybody else in there, well, the Browns are probably might start off 0-2, but it's a much harder path to make the playoffs at 0-2. Statistically and historically speaking, that's proven to be true. But I think the Bengals answer lose again, but I think they lose in a more sexy fashion, if that's a possibility, if that makes sense. I think the Chiefs are just going to keep being the Chiefs, keep beating good teams, and remind everybody why they're the Super Bowl champs. All right, next game, Sunday Night Football, next to last game of the slate, the Texans and the Bears. Obviously, the Bears want to see Caleb Williams continue to improve. I'm a little bit worried for him because Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze both have injuries, might not play. They might play. I don't know at this point in the week. Again, this is a Sunday night game, so they have some time. I think no matter what, though, I think the Texans still win this game. Their Texans' young quarterback is much more proven so far than the Bears. Obviously, the Bears have Caleb Williams has played one game, and it wasn't phenomenal from a passing perspective. I don't think the Bears are bad. I just think the Texans are significantly better. They're more ready to go. And I think the Bears are still figuring some things out. They're still working chemistry out. I think by the end of the season, they'll be better. But they don't have enough to go into Houston, perceived division favorite, and beat them in prime time week 2 of the season. I think the Texans win this one, and they probably win it by double digits. But if you're a Bears fan or you're a Caleb Williams fan, you just want to see improvement from last week, and I think you'll be happy. Last game of the week gets my last top 5 star, the Eagles and the Falcons. I think, again, the Falcons, I want to say, are the most talented and best team in that division. But they also lost to the Steelers, and I don't know, they didn't look great doing it. The defense looked pretty good. The offense looked not good. Kirk Cousins looked bad. More interceptions and touchdowns is never a good way to play as a quarterback. Not a whole lot of yardage. And this Eagles defense ain't bad either. I don't know if it's quite as good as the Steelers defense, but it ain't bad. And the Eagles definitely have a better offense than the Steelers. It's a step up in competition, 100%. And maybe I would pick the Falcons if they looked better last week, but the Falcons didn't look good last week. I think they play better, but playing better against the Eagles compared to the Steelers, I still don't think is enough to get the job done. I think really you just want to see Kirk Cousins come out, be efficient, run the offense more in a better way than he did. I don't know, not throw 2 interceptions and turn the ball over. I think the Eagles, little bit chip on their shoulder. Not the year they won it last year. Not a great season after making the Super Bowl. They still made the playoffs, but they fell off towards the end of the year. And I think the Eagles are out for blood. I think they want to prove everybody that they are the team that made the Super Bowl, not the team from last year. And I think they're going to get a win at home in primetime. Again, primetime Kirk Cousins, not great. And if you're the Eagles, you can't lose to the Falcons because no team has ever lost to Kirk Cousins and won the Super Bowl. So there's also that out there. I do, and for those reasons, I think the Eagles find a way to get this done. Here you go. I'll leave this up for a second. This is a schedule for the week. It has all of my picks, who I think is going to win. It has the time they're playing. And on this little schedule here, the home team is always on the left. The away team is always on the right. So here you go. Here's my picks. Just to let everybody know, I went 12-4 last week. I will take going 12-4 every week. Going 75% on picks is phenomenal. Hopefully I find a way to do the same or better this week. There's a couple of tough games to call, like the Dolphins-Bills game. And we'll see. Hopefully we get better, but here's my picks. Feel free to do whatever you want with them. Just don't bet on them and then get mad at me. I do not recommend betting with my picks. I'm not saying spread or over anything. I'm simply just picking a winner. Thank you. That is the second episode. I hope everybody enjoyed. We tried some different things with this episode. I'm sure, as you can see, don't be afraid to comment, like, subscribe, give us feedback. I have my X tag here, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I really don't care. Not that big of a deal to me. But here I have the tag. Come follow me on Twitter. I don't just tweet about football. I tweet a little bit about everything. So don't be afraid to come and hang out. Again, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, don't be afraid to leave it underneath of the video. I appreciate everybody taking time out of their day to watch.